I'm joined by someone who was particularly busy with Doctor Who during David Tennant's time on the show, but was also there at the very start of the Sarah Jane Adventures and worked on many episodes. I would like to introduce stunt performer and coordinator, Abbi Collins. How are you?
Hi, Alex. Hello. I'm good. Good, thank you. Very good.
And you managing to keep yourself busy during this sort of rather odd time?
I am. I have been so busy, it makes me wonder how I managed to actually work with all the things that I need to do and I have done at home. But I'm lucky to have a home gym, so I've been working out. I've been through thousands of family photos to digitalise them. I've updated, or I'm in the process of updating my show reel with an editor. I've done 2 family trees. So yeah, and I wondered what retirement would be like, because I've been thinking about that for a little while, and now I know, and I absolutely love it. So, but I think I will need to go back to work. So
it's going to be a shock to the system when we do.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it really will. Yes, it will. But I suspect it will take a while before the stunt side of things will get back to work. The 2-meter distancing doesn't work for us at all, obviously, but we'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
So I wanted to take you back to 2006. How did you first come into contact with Doctor Who? Would you have just gone up for it like a normal job?
No, it's an interesting story, and it involves a lovely, lovely man, a lovely director called Graham Harper. I was working on a TV show in Yorkshire, based in Scarborough, called The Royal. And I was basically their resident stunt coordinator. So I did all the blocks and all the episodes. And they brought different directors in to direct the different blocks. And one of them was Graham. And I'd never met him before. And this was in my early days of stunt coordinating. And we got on like a house on fire, really, really well, and worked exceptionally well together on the same wavelength, which is fabulous and very important. And then he was asked to do Doctor Who. So he said, well, I want Abbi Collins for my stunt coordinator. They did have another person that they used as a coordinator, but he insisted he wanted to use me. So that was my intro to Doctor Who. That's how I got my foot in the door. And they said, absolutely, if that's who you want, that's who you can have. So I was working on it for over a period of 4 years when David Tennant, as you said, was there. And it was fantastic. I loved it. And I have to say, when I was young, I used to watch Doctor Who. And yes, I am that old. And yes, I do remember all those Doctor Whos all those years ago. And the Daleks just scared me to death. I mean, really, really. I can remember going behind the sofa when the Daleks came on and being scared, properly scared, not just messing about. And then when I came to work on the show, I went into their big prop warehouse, a massive, like an indoor warehouse that they have where they keep all the props. And I was there early and I wanted to have a little walk around, and there was a Dalek sitting in the corner. And I walked up to it, and I promise you, my heart was thumping. And it took me back how scared I used to be of them. And it was really bizarre. And I've got some pictures of me, inside the Dalek, and it was just, wonderful, wonderful memories and fabulous experiences. And David is amazing. Loved working with him. I only ever doubled him one time. He did all his own. When I say stunts, I use the word lightly with actors. He did a lot of his own action. If it's anything really stunty and dangerous, potentially dangerous, and needs a particular skill, then obviously the actors need to be doubled. But he's so good and so physical that he did basically everything himself except one time, and that was because he had a bad back, not because he wouldn't have been capable of doing what we were asking him. So yes, fabulous memories. And I still talk to Graham now, and I still work with Graham, and I went on to work with him on other shows as well. And I have to say this also, the first day on set, or the evening before, my first day on set, I was given the call sheet at the hotel. And I remember sitting on the bed in the hotel room, looking at the call sheet and thinking, oh my God, my name is on Doctor Who's call sheet. Abby Collins, stunt coordinator. And I just started, the massive smile on my face. And it was just the best thing. Those are the moments, that you remember. My memory is not brilliant these days, but those are key moments and memories that I'll never, never forget and will always treasure. And fabulous show.
Because your first encounter with it was the revival of the Cybermen, so that must have been a fantastic starting point. But I imagine trying to do any stunts with those costumes must be hard work.
Oh gosh, yeah, really, really difficult, because you've the guys inside them limited vision, and uncomfortable, and they dig in different places, and I would try and put some padding in, some little foam in them, but they fit really tight. So they're, and difficult to move. And there was one sequence in particular, I remember, where the Dalek zaps the Cyberman, and the shot involved then the Cyberman falling like that down to the ground, and he was dead. So he was out of action. So he had to land, the stuntman had to land on his face, flat down, without saving himself with his hands, which is horrible. That's a horrible job to do with the suit on, because it was going to hurt for sure. And he needed to stick out his chest and land on his chest rather than actually smash down on his face. Sadly, the first stuntman that was in the suit to do that couldn't do it without putting his hands out, which was not what we wanted. So I had other stuntmen there that day, so I had to replace him with another one, and he did it first time just like that. But it is a horrible job. But yeah, you see them in costumes and you think, maybe the general public do appreciate how difficult it is. But no, you're right, Alex, it is not easy at all.
So when you've got lots of characters in either full prosthetics or perhaps prosthetic head and hands, are you sort of given much time to explore the limitations of those costumes beforehand, or does it sort of work itself out on the day?
Generally works itself out on the day, because TV usually is very limited time-wise. They're trying to do so much in a day, and they have smaller budgets than the films, so we don't always have as much time. So generally on the day, but yes, it's the same with the fight scene. It's fabulous if you can have rehearsal days before, and often with big fights you do have to. It's impossible to put something together actually on the day, but usually with costume. I did a show called Blood Moon. Well, it was a film. It was a lower budget film, Blood Moon, and there was a guy, and he had this incredible costume on, and he had to wear lower legs that were like small stilts, and we had to have rehearsal days with him just to get the movement, not just how to walk in it or how to leap about in it. He had to leap too, but also to practice the choreography of what his character, how he would move and what he would do in that situation. So he wasn't really human, so that was important. So yeah, the more time you have, the better with anything regarding action, but we don't always have it.
Because your on-screen encounter with the Daleks was a fantastic, I thought, big-scale production. You had a lot of the companions came back. Was that a particularly big episode for you to do?
Was that the one with the Cybermen on the bridge where we had the battle sequence? You'll have to remind me now which one it was. I did quite a few. I do remember one where we had huge special effects we had about 10 Cybermen and the army and special effects with a battle on a bridge. And did we have the Daleks involved in that? I think we did. You tell me.
I was thinking more of the Stolen Earth and Journey's End, where you had Davros, Daleks, 2 Doctors, Catherine Tate, John, all of the old regulars came together.
Yes. And I think we shot, if I'm right in thinking, was that in a quarry? I think there was a sequence in a quarry. Yes. Oh my goodness, that was fantastic. Yeah, how lovely to have John Barrymore and Catherine Tate, both really fabulous, by the way. Yes, that was a biggie. And I because they tended to give Graham the big action sequences because that's what he loves. So therefore I was on board with him. So it was, it's such great memories. And it's really good to get your teeth into something as a coordinator, as a performer also, by the way. But as a coordinator, it is wonderful to be given that sort of scope. And we all love a challenge. Really exciting. Good.
So is Doctor Who perhaps overly ambitious for its resources? It must be a particularly complicated show to work on.
It is. And I have to say, in the days I was there, Graham they would send me the script. And I would read it and think, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. And I would highlight all the pieces of action. And then Graham and I would have a conversation. This would be before we even did the recce's and before the production meeting. And I would say, right, I highlighted them all. And he would say, well, hang fire, because chances are half of it will be cut. And that's the conversation we would have, which would be such a shame. And it's all money, obviously their budget. So they were always very ambitious, but sadly a lot of it was cut out, which is a shame. For such a popular show as well, I never understood that, why they couldn't find the money from somewhere just to make sure all that could happen, because it was what Russell had written. And it was amazing. So, but very ambitious. I mean, they did a lot with the budget they had. And we always hoped every year the budget would get bigger and the action would become more. And it seemed to either stay the same or reduce the budget. And we always tried to do the same sort of action on a reduced budget. But the powers that be had to make those decisions, not us, unfortunately.
So would you have had a sort of similar situation with the Sarah Jane Adventures? Because you were there from the very pilot, that first episode.
Yes. Oh, yes. They asked me if I would coordinate that when it started with the lovely Liz Sladen. And the good thing about it was I was their coordinator, but I also was able to double Liz. Mostly it was when she was driving the car, because she didn't drive, and it was a funny little car. It was a nice little thing, but rather unusual. And I doubled her on other bits and pieces, but so I was a good double physically for her as well. So they got the best of both worlds with me, really, as a coordinator. And it was so sad when Liz passed away. I met her daughter. I was really close with her on set, and what a fabulous lady. Fabulous. I can't speak highly enough of her, and a tremendous actress. And Graham and I often talk about how sad it is that she's no longer with us. But I got to work with him on Sarah Jane as well. So win-win.
And of course, another fan favourite that you'd have worked with on Sarah Jane would be Nicholas Courtney. Both sort of old school Doctor Who actors. How was he to work with?
Lovely. Yes, very, very nice. Yes. I honestly, Alex, there's only one time where an actress was really not off with me, but she was rude on set. mostly there, and this was quite a big Hollywood actress. I'm not sure I should mention her name. Maybe I shouldn't. I might never work in this town again. But she was just rude, and she just behaved like a spoilt child, which they tend to be wrapped in cotton wool and spoilt, really. But most of them don't react to that. They behave normally and nicely, but she didn't. But mostly they are lovely, and particularly I think for the stunt coordinator and their stunt doubles, because we're the ones that make them look good. So I think it's quite important that they, they appreciate that and they're nice to us. Not that we would be unprofessional in any way and make them look bad because of it, but we work closely with them and usually form a really good bond. Not always, which is a shame when you don't, because I like to build up a really good working relationship with any of the actors that I work with, because I'm also a fighter ranger, so I try and use them in the fights so they can do it themselves and perform their own fight sequences. So I work closely with them, and there's a huge amount of trust involved. So I think to build up that trust, you also have to have a relationship in the first place. So yeah, I actually really enjoy working with actors. I love it when I get a stunt team together and we can do amazing work. But working with the actors is more of a challenge for me, and I love a challenge because I can take them out of their comfort zone and teach them to do things and work with them and choreograph a fight sequence that they would never thought they could have done. And then they love the result and they're always thrilled, because a lot of actors really are keen to do as much of their action as possible themselves. But as I say, there's that fine line where we can't cross it. A stunt is a stunt, and it's not for the actor when it becomes dangerous. Unless, of course, you're Tom Cruise. And then Tom does so much of his own action. He's amazing. I think if he hadn't become an actor, he would have been a stuntman for sure. Yes.
So how did you first get into Stunt Yourself then?
I had a riding school, was living in Yorkshire, and I had a riding school. I'm a qualified instructor, so horses are my background, and that is my true passion for sure, horses. And I was working, so I'd used my horse a couple of times for a commercial that might have cropped up, I remember, and they wanted a horse to go on stage. And I was working with a photographer one day, and he said, what do you want to do for the future? Is this it? You're working with horses? And I did some modeling also. And I said, absolutely not. There's something out there. Working with horses, yes, I would love to, but there doesn't seem to be any money in it. Well, there wasn't when I was doing it. You did it for the love of it, not for the money that went into your bank, that's for sure. And I worked with this photographer. He said, would you like to do that? And I said, no, I know there's something out there for me, but I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but I had this gut feeling that I should be doing something else, and I was missing a trick somewhere. And he had a friend that called Roy Allon, who sadly isn't with us anymore. He was a stuntman for, I don't know, probably 45 or more years, Roy. And Roy lived on the outskirts of Leeds, where I was. And he said, I have a friend who's a stuntman. How about stunts? And I just said, oh my God. Well, yes. And he said, I'll put you in touch with him. And I'd never considered it because I didn't really know anyone that was even an extra. I had no involvement in film or TV in any way. So he put me in touch with Roy. I went to see him. He told me all about the industry, and I started my training the very next day. You have to get to a high level in 6 different sporting disciplines. And then you had to also have your equity card. So you have to work hard at all of those. And it took me 3 years, and it's slightly different now. It's still 6 sports and at a high level, and it will probably take you longer than 3 years, maybe 4 years. Now my son is a stuntman, and it took him 4 years, and he was training more or less full time. He was fortunate that I was able to support him financially to do that, but it's not impossible. Don't want to put anybody off that wants to do it. Where there's a will, there's always a way. And I trained, and one of my first jobs was with Roy, this stuntman who he put me in touch with. And I went back with Roy to see this photographer years later. It must have been probably 4 or 5 years later. And Roy said, we must go and tell him that now you're a fully fledged stunt lady. And it was because of him. And his name was Richard Ross. I've tried to track him down since, but I can't find anything about him. So if you happen to watch this, please get in touch with me, Richard, because I'd love to tell you, how far I've come. That I'm into my 33rd year now, and if it wasn't for Richard, I probably wouldn't be doing it. I don't know what I'd be doing. Be interesting to know, but I've loved it. Loved every minute of it. It's tough, by the way, very, very tough side of our industry. It's a tough profession. It's difficult to get on our register, but we want fabulous people that are skilled and to raise the bar. The bar is being raised constantly in our industry, more and more now, or with CGI, and the directors are demanding bigger and better stunts. And yes, CGI helps us out, but I'm not a big fan of it, I have to say. I think that might be one of your questions, because it always is about what do we think about CGI. I think there is definitely a place for it, but if there's too much of it, it tends to, for me, it looks a bit like a cartoon then. But then maybe I know it's not real, it's CGI, but the general members of the public don't. So it's a difficult one to call, because I often ruin action sequences for my husband when we're sat watching something, because I'll say, oh, he was on a jerk back, he was jerked back there, or this happened, that happened, oh, he was on he's on wires, clearly that was done on wires, and he'll say, oh, for Christ's sake, just stop it, will you? I want to enjoy it. I don't need the running commentary as to how it was done. But occasionally he'll say to me now, he was on wires there, wasn't he? He never did that without them, did he? So there you go, he can't win. But he certainly learned a lot about it. He's not involved in the business, by the way, but he's found it very interesting and fascinating and crazy. It is, our industry's crazy for sure.
How is it as a woman being not only a performer but a coordinator? Because I get the impression it's still fairly male dominated, even if that is starting to change.
It is, yeah. It is male dominated still, but it is changing. There are more female producers, exec producers, directors, in all departments. More and more females coming forwards and coming up the ranks, which is great. There are fewer women, I don't want to sound like a feminist, but there are fewer women on our stunt register, first and foremost. So therefore, there are fewer that feel that it's the career for them. There are fewer instances where there are more and more lead now, female leads, where they are doing a lot of their action sequences for that female lead, so therefore they need doubles, so that's also improving. But I think we've got about 450 stunt performers and coordinators on the British Stunt Register, our association, and I think there are about 70 females in total. That includes myself, that includes coordinators and performers and newbies. So there's the percentage is a lot less, but there is generally a lot less work for women. And I think as far as female coordinators go, there are that work full time as only coordinating, there's literally a handful, maybe 6. There might be 6 of us, 6 or 7. It's tough. You have to jump through a lot of hoops to get to be a coordinator, more so than ever now that we've restructured the British Stunt Register. But that's a good thing. It's very, very important, because you're looking out for the actors and the crew and your stunt performers' safety. So it's very important that you have the experience and the knowledge to keep them safe. And that's not something you can buy. That's not something, you can do a crash course for. It's something that, you learn over the years that you're working. So but why there are there are fewer of us because there are fewer women, and we don't always get the opportunities that the guys get, but to gain the experience, to have what's required to move up the ladder and become a fully fledged stunt coordinator. But things are changing, and we've got some fantastic girls on our register. We really do. We've got fantastic guys, by the way. We have a register, as in a book, full of everybody. We're all in there, and we've got a whole page that we advertise our credits and photographs of ourselves and so on. And it's just, every time I pick up and look at that book, I think how of the talent that is in there. It is just a book of talent, and in many, many ways, not just exceptionally good stunt performers and coordinators, but we've got instructors, we've got the guys there with commercial pilot's license, we've got maybe more than one, but one in particular, amazing magician. He does close-up magic. He's unbelievable, talented in many, many ways. And obviously they all had a history and a background before they became stuntmen. So it's, I'm very proud, very, very proud of our stunt register. It's and it's just improving all the time. So we're all chomping at the bit to try and get back to work, as you can imagine. And I'm sure there's lots of guys and gals out there going a little bit stir crazy with us in the situation we're in. But I'm sure we'll come back with a vengeance, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, and I look forward to that. But looking through some of your credits, I wanted to ask about Cockneys versus Zombies, because that looked like a great film to work on. But I was interested that a lot of the cast were slightly older. How was that to work on then? Does that present new challenges?
Oh yes, it does present new challenges, but again, it's a fabulous opportunity to be given to meet these people that you've watched on TV for years and years, that I watched growing up. And most people wouldn't get those opportunities, so we're very fortunate in that way. It was a fun show to work on. It was crazy, but it was fun, and it was lovely to work with the older guys. The very first time I ever met David Jason was on a show called Hogfather, and I was also the horse master on that show. And I have to tell you this story because you're talking about the older actors. And my very first encounter with this legend was when I had to go and fit a harness to him in his trailer. And me being me, I cringe when I think about it now. But I just tell it as it is, and often what's in my head just comes out of my mouth, being a Yorkshire girl, I guess. I went to his trailer, knocked on the door, and the AD introduced me to him. This is Abby, our stunt coordinator, David. And I said, hello, lovely to meet you. And are you ready for this bondage session? And that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. And it might have been through being slightly nervous. I was being introduced to this fantastic icon that I've loved and watched for forever. And luckily, he just laughed and said, oh, absolutely. And And I think I broke the ice with that, but it wasn't anything I prepared to say, by the way. It just came out. But there you go. Those are the moments that you do remember. But he was lovely, and I had to hang him upside down. Well, I didn't. Our Y-rigger did, but work with them and hanging him upside down in a chimney. So that was his role in Hogfather. But it's lovely to meet them. And the other thing I've also that is special is that I managed to get signed photographs from lots of, I think he has about 10 now. My hubby Adrian has 10 signed photographs to him from 10 leading ladies, and he has a little gallery of them in our kitchen. And he's very proud of those. And these are all ladies that I've worked with and got them to sign a picture to him. So just, little things like that. The small things mean a lot.
And so looking through your work, there's all sorts of action-packed series and films that, you assume would be stunt heavy. But I was interested to see an episode of Two Doors Down and B&B, which I wouldn't immediately think are stunt heavy. Are they perhaps the more interesting jobs because the stunts might not be so apparent?
Yes. Now, B&B in particular was a lower budget film, and that was there was I remember a sequence we did in the park in Bristol, and at night, and it was with the actors, and one of them attacks the other. And if I remember rightly, I think I had a stunt double for them both, not a double, but a stunt performer there to rehearse it with them and to work the fight sequence out with them, with me, choreographing it. But they ended up doing it themselves. And it's important to keep them safe. So they're getting thrown around. If there's a punch, it must be non-contact. A lot of that, it doesn't always register on the screen as being tricky and difficult, because hopefully on the screen it looks slick and it looks great. But there's often a very big build-up to that. It doesn't just happen. It's all about safety. And it's about, you don't want the actor to, if he's dropping down onto his knees, he must have knee pads on. You don't want him to fall in a position that he didn't expect, he's not supposed to, and isn't padded, so he hurts his back, because at the end of the day, that reflects on me. It reflects on the stunt coordinator. It's our job to keep them safe. And there was another sequence on that where the guy climbs out of the window. And I did have a double for him, but he did the first part of it. He climbs down, I think he ties knots into the bed sheets, and he climbs out of the window at the farmhouse. There was sometimes you read the script. Well, I read the script and I read more into it than the words, because that's my job. So he knocks him down, and he's hit by he's walking along the road, and a push bike comes along and knocks him down, and the director might say, well, can we do that with the actor? Can we get the stunt person on the bike, and can I shoot it in such a way that you can see the actor falling down? Well, yes, we can. But it involves rehearsals, it involves the stunt performer being absolutely accurate, and it often involves a crash mat framed out of the shot if it's the actor doing it themselves. If it's a double, obviously they have to go onto the ground. But yeah, there's even the little things that appear little on screen are often very tricky to put together. And at the end of the day, it's all about making it look good, but keeping everybody safe.
Well, I think on that note, we've but scratched the surface of your work. But I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time, Abby. It's been fascinating talking to you about some of those jobs, and I'm sure we could talk all day about more.
We could, I'm sure. Yes, it's been an absolute pleasure, Alex. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I've really enjoyed it. I love talking about what I do. So I think we all do, don't we? But it's been lovely. Thank you.